r/ask Reddit. What is an overly romanticized job? Chef, it's not all creativity and celebrity. It's almost entirely grunt work, danger, injury, and long hours resulting in missed time with family. And, from what I've heard from friends, a weirdly militaristic hierarchy and abusive power dynamics. And drugs and alcohol. From what I understand, private investigator, bunch of boring research and chasing leads to dead ends. Nothing like any TV show. It's 95% chasing insurance scammers with 95% following a cheating spouse with a 1% looking for a lost family member or custody case or something semi-interesting. Lost cat? Working as a lawyer isn't anything like on TV. Are you telling me lawyers don't go shouting objection when pointing out a major flaw in someone's testimony, or hold it when pressing a witness, or take that when presenting evidence, or that every case ends up becoming a murder trial? What do you mean I can't cross-examine the parrot? How has this not been said already? Video game developer. So many people want to go into video games thinking they will get to design a game. The reality is 99% of people that work on video games get no creative input at all. That just make place test assets exactly as they are told, all the while being forced to work 60-70 hours a week in a terrible work environment. With shit pay compared to other devs. Also, so many people also want to make games without understanding the work that needs to be done learning first. Yep. Developing an insurance company's claims reporting app doesn't sound nearly as glamorous as working on Halo, but you are going to be paid better and much happier making that insurance app. For some reason, some of my old co-workers got in their heads that my traveling sales job was whisking me away to exotic places and gourmet meals on the company dime. No. Unless you think Syracuse is basically Paris and eating a poorly wrapped burrito while driving because you don't have time to stop for lunch between appointments is fine dining. Sales is not sexy. It's a lot of drinking alone and working late nights in hotels with shit internet. If you have a family, it's hard on your partner because they're taking the kids several nights in a row. You'll miss a lot of you don't have the freedom to schedule around your personal life. I'm glad I got out. Saddest part for me was on the road one time going out to a solo dinner, as usual, and being sat with a candle and rose in the middle of the table. I looked around and saw every other table was a couple, and only then did it hit me it was Valentine's Day. That's rough. Architect. Seems like lots of good rom-com boyfriends are architects. In reality, the hours are long, the stress is extremely high, and pay is really poor for a skilled profession. Edit. I'm an interior designer, and it never stops surprising me that I make far more money than architects, with far less training. Open bracket. I do have plenty of experience. No one makes as much as the general contractor, though. And very few of them are actually coming up with these grand exterior designs. The majority of them are drawing up details on how a piece of drywall terminates into a corner with a ceiling grid. This always kills me. I have never and will never design a skyscraper, and no, I can't design your house view for cheap. Writer. You picture yourself at a typewriter in a cabin by a lake, crackling fire in the fireplace, a golden retriever asleep at your feet, and a glass of Lagavulin in your hand, dreaming up the next great American novel. Contrast that to reality, where the writing jobs that actually pay the bills usually involve long nights and weekends sitting in a cube farm writing the instructions that come with a toaster that nobody will ever read while your spouse ducks her co-workers. Oh dear. If it makes you feel better, I did read the instructions that came with my toaster. Thanks. As a technical writer, I always read them too. Sometimes I'll learn about cool features I'd never think to look for. 2. Unrelated. When writing, I always like to think about the guy who's drunk and or stoned and has decided now's the time to set up his whatever. It helps me appreciate what I'm writing a little more. All jobs according to these comments. Counterpoint. I am an accountant and no one glorifies accountants. Came here to say that everyone hates their job. Zookeeper. You spend most of your time cleaning poop and you're paid like shit. You could always pet the lion and be done with your work by becoming famous poop in the news next morning. Edit. Wow. So many people liked my joke. This is truly the proudest moment of my life. Not just the physical toll it takes on your body, but keepers are expected to produce scientific studies and then present them at conferences. You have to be well versed in nutrition management, behavioral science, veterinary medicine, etc. It's incredibly mentally and physically taxing on minimum wage for such a skilled job. Veterinarian: overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, extraordinarily high suicide rate. People think sit hugging puppies and kittens and doing it all for the love of animals, then get pissed when they actually expect to be paid and call them heartless money grubbing pet killers when they can't afford to treat their pet. Girlfriend is a vet. This is exactly it. She has regularly required huge amounts of support because some 6 feet 8 inches aggressive guy abuses her for charging him $2,000 for saving his dog's life by spending 8 hours performing surgery, ruining her back in the process, providing all medication including IV fluids, anesthesia, antibiotics, X-rays. What? People think this stuff is free. Yep. They think they can get angry and use their size and intimidation to get it for free, and if they kick up enough stink, they often do. My best friend says she wants to be a vet. I told her it would not be all cute and cuddles, but more like helping animals in pain and having to put down terminally ill pets. She just looked at me and said that part of the job can be for someone else. I'll just get the happy part. I doubt she knows what she's getting herself into. Edit. Some people are saying I was being rude here, and I'm sorry you see it that way. I was not rude when actually talking to her, but this was after a while of her knowing she wanted to be a vet. I was making sure she knew what she was getting herself into. Chef. Lots of getting screamed at. It takes a really big person not to pass that down the line. Lots of work, lots of expertise, little pay, little appreciation. Of the multiple chefs I know, all of them drink. My years as a chef cook really helped cement my alcohol problem. Glad to see this posted multiple times on this thread. LMAO. I loved people, especially older folk, who thought I had a glamorous job when I told them what I did. Like I was just competing on food shows and making cute pastries for the gram while making good money. No. I get screamed at for $9 an hour. Susan. In an 80-degree kitchen with one smoke break maybe if it's slow. I've lost fingernails, broken a toe, and had to get from slicing my thumb open right down the middle. Cooking suwaks. Edit. Had to get stitches, was half asleep when I wrote this. Pretty much any fun job. If a ton of other people want the job, be prepared to be overworked and underpaid. I managed a bookstore that was one of 4 privately owned locations across the South. In an annual meeting, the owners were complaining about how difficult it was to retain employees. They were only paying them $10 an hour. I brought up the fact that cost of living had skyrocketed in my city, and even cookout starting pay was $13.50 with benefits even for part-time. They cut me off mid-sentence and said, but people want to work here, so we don't need to pay that much. As a manager I couldn't even afford a 1-room apartment by myself. Fun job and great co-workers, but I do not miss working for and being taken advantage of by those people. Boss, people don't want to work here. You try paying them living wages. Boss, we don't have to do that because people want to work here. Film worker. Hours are grueling. Production doesn't give a duck about you. Good luck spending time with your kids. And most of us are addicts, drunks. And the mass influx of cash followed by a dessert for any amount of time until you find the next gig. The mass influx only remains because you work so much there is no time to spend it. Fashion. Why don't you have your own brand? Beach. Do I look like I can afford to ship a container of shirts made in Pakistan for 3 cents to compete with some fashion conglomerate? Everything at fashion sucks. Anyone can do it with no degree. Pay is shit. Hours are shit. People are beachy and soulless. The industry is shameless and zero conscious at sustainability. You will work and study very hard to lose a position to a model-looking daughter of some rich guy. It's basically become a profession for rich girls who don't know what to do and like consuming goods. The very few people who make it usually do it for reasons other than talent. You're so right about all the rich girls going there. When I lived in Jordan, a lot of girls at my school were children of diplomats and other very rich folk. I want to say that 30% of the females in my class went on to study fashion in Canada, US, and the UK as international students. I always wondered about what the appeal was. Then I realized that a lot of them were never that good at school, but they still wanted the college experience abroad, so of course daddy paid for her to party for 4 years at McGill and Coachella and then come home with a degree in fashion. And if the girl wasn't able to get that degree, her parents usually bought her a degree in business and made her chief marketing manager of her dad's gigantic import business. Looking at unequal point is that people like that overshadow truly talented and passionate fashion designers. Ugh. Nuqual rolls eyes. Airline pilot. People think you area like Leonardo DiCaprio in Catch Me If You Can. Swaggering through the airport, wearing sunglasses, surrounded by hot flight attendants. In reality, we're like glorified bus drivers whose job is 1% excitement and 99% absolute boredom, just sitting in a cockpit waiting for life to pass by. Military pilot here. People can't wait to jump ship to the airlines because military life sucks. This post made me sad. Airline pilot here. Don't let this post sway you too much. Although what OP said can be true, I don't find it boring. I still enjoy hand flying. I still grin to myself like a kid when I make a safe landing. I honestly look forward to every flying day. This job is also very simple. You show up, you finish your duty, and you can do whatever you want after signing out. Night at medieval times. Those guys start to squeeze and deal with tons of grunt work, and when they become knights, hours are still terrible, but now you risk very serious injuries during practice or during a show. All of my friends that have worked or work there have had multiple surgeries, broken bones, you name it. They do like having the spotlight on them, and they're like brothers but usually hate it after a while. This is a very specific post. Never thought about it. I honestly thought he was talking about actual knights for a second. Peasants wouldn't understand, but being a knight is hard work. Coming this fall, undercover knights. Being a vet, having to put down pets and deal with animals that have been treated terrible takes a toll. Also the perception that they get paid like kings while most of them are in lots of debt and make significantly less than human doctors. Reading this thread, I'm starting to think work in general is overly romanticized our culture, to the point where people sacrifice their relationships, their time, and their happiness in pursuit of a misrepresentation of a career they chose. I think a lot of people feel so committed to their choices and pressured by society that once they realize that their job isn't what they expected, they just white knuckle it to retirement. Everyone around me is like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are you going to do to move up in your organization? And it's just like, nowhere and nothing. I don't make a shit ton of money, but I'm in a position where I make more than enough. I can log off at work at normal hours and still have enough energy to do things I love. Why the duck do I want to add more to my plate? Especially shit I don't really all that care about. We just put too much effort on working and not enough on living. The trades. People on Reddit seem to pitch it as the only sensible career choice, but a lot of them will just destroy your body. I know a guy with a desk job who used to be an electrician. He opted to go back to school, get a business degree, and took a huge pay cut when he looked at the older guys who were electricians. Their bodies were shot. Working as a plumber, I see two different types of old plumbers. The ones that have the same tools they started with, refuse to buy new gear, and don't wear gloves, ear protection, safety glasses, etc., who are barely walking around and make noises every time they get up and down. And then the other guys that make a point to replace gear that's wearing out and take care of themselves, and they are fine. Take care of your body, replace tools and PPE, and you'll be fine. Military. It's 99% standing around waiting to hear orders from a bordering on inept superior. The paperwork is never ending. You'll long periods of time away from home and will probably get divorced. Also, your knees and back will go to shit. When my buddy came back from Iraq, the only thing he said was that masturbation was a huge problem in his camp. Yikes. How were his knees and back? Academia. First of all, most people undergrads call professors actual professors by rank, and people who aren't professors are likely not getting paid a whole lot above the poverty line, have few to no benefits, have little to no input on what they teach or how, not to mention having to put up with nonsense I've not seen or heard of in any other field. The amount of unpaid labor that goes into getting a single article published is unreal. PhD chemist here, can confirm. Market is, unbeknownst to many, saturated. Only way to get a good academic job is to come from an Ivy League school. Otherwise, adjunct, and if lucky years of grunt work at pathetic pay followed by a big maybe. And industry jobs have shit for job security. Lose a job? Okay. Well, next PhD level position is 100 miles away. I said duck it, and went to nursing. At least this pays okay, and has job security. Librarian. It's not quiet. We don't read all day. We clean up our fair share of bodily fluids, plunge men at toilets, and interact with homeless mentally ill patrons fairly regularly depending on our location. Sure, a bulk of our job is recommending books to readers and coming up with fun programs. But sometimes I feel like a community secretary who had to get a master's to have any chance of a decent salary, or a social worker, which I did not sign up for. One day I'm looking up phone numbers for psychics for a man who called around to police stations and threatened to kill cops in our town, and making 60 copies for a rude lady who's rushing to get ready to teach a yoga class, and I'm thinking, what have I done? But then the next day I'm getting picture books for an adorable kid and their appreciative mom, or 3D printing a missing piece from one of the board games we lend out instead of having to charge the patron to replace it, or helping a lonely old woman with no children nearby with her phone and having her look at me like I'm a genius, or helping a lady with her sister's visa so she can come to the US from a war zone. She made it here, by the way, and the lady told me she loves me for it. I love my job, but it is absolutely exhausting and gross and stressful and scary sometimes. I really like that you criticized your living, but unlike others here in the comments, you also highlighted the positive things. I work at a Domino's delivering pizza, and everybody acts as if it is the most embarrassing job, but I love it. I basically get paid $20 an hour on average. My friend works in education and she spent 30 minutes bitching to me about how fucking horrible her new job was after she just left her last one. She said something along the lines of how on her second week she told her superior that she will quit if she is not treated right. Sounded a little like a threat. So I was like, you know what, if you go back to getting a job in a different field, even if it is serving tables, and take a break. I work a tipped position and honestly I like it a lot more than my graphic design job. And her tone was like so condescending towards the idea of it. Like she felt shame at the idea of having a job similar to me. Anyways, she's the one who hates her life, not me. This is completely off topic to the thread, but I'd say a job that is not romanticized that I enjoy is delivering pizza, even at age 32. I work at a Domino's delivering pizza and everybody acts as if it is the most embarrassing job, but I love it. This is the thing about blue collar work. It's either backbreaking or super easy. When it's easy it feels almost like vacation. You feel like, holy shit, they're actually paying me to do this. And duck people's judgment, man. If you can pay rent and eat, then you're doing alright in my book. Not that it's romanticized, but advertising got a bunch of spotlight when Mad Men came out, and it's nothing like that. It's looking at data and managing spreadsheets and whatnot. It's heavily technical and process oriented these days. Can confirm. Was so excited to start my career at a giant media agency until I realized media planning was literally staring at an Excel sheet and making numbers go vroom. Was fired after 3 months for being terrible at my job, lol. Venetian gondola operator. Probably. I have a real problem with those guys. FBI special agent. I dated a woman who was with FBI and she enjoyed what she did most of the time, but wow was it dry. Imagine sitting in a car watching a house for 6 hours, then going back to the office and spending a few hours writing a report, or looking through 10 years of purchase records and receipts that you pulled out of the trash to build a case, or sitting in a room at midnight listening in on a dude having phone sex with his mistress. The overwhelming majority of her job was writing reports, status updates, and reviewing financial documents in an office. The hours were terrible, the work seemed boring, and the bureaucracy was thick. Somebody has got to collect intelligence information. Well, the phone sex part sounds pretty funny. Duck this. I'm going to post on Ask and see if there is a job that is as romantic as it sounds. IT is exactly as romantic as it sounds. It really is a bunch of nerdy guys in a basement spending most of the day on Reddit and acting like we're swamped with work. Brewer, generally poor paid to be a glorified janitor. It's the best way to be constantly damp around electronics, heavy equipment and acids though. Man, every job ducking sucks. Librarian. Oh, you get to sit around and read in a nice quiet environment all day HA. Yep, no, it's like working in a kindergarten class for psychopaths. EMTs, EMTs and paramedics. We're not some heroes who save lives. Saving lives is about 10% of the job. The other 90% is dealing with a broken healthcare system, getting paid minimum wage, dealing with patients who don't need help and abuse the already broken healthcare system, and if you're lucky, working for a company that doesn't give a shit about you. The shit that blows my mind is you get paid literally like minimum wage. You make more money if you go work a register. The duck, uniformed communities are always toxic AF. But it just seems like EMS is tricking kids with the idea of prestige and heroism, sucking them dry, and dumping them somewhere else for the next generation to take to the hospital after a failed suicide. Ducking wild. Healthcare, maybe not so much since the pandemic has shown a spotlight on healthcare, but being a nurse, RT, doctor, CNA, EVS is hard work physically, mentally, and emotionally. I always found the sexy nurse thing funny too. I can promise you nothing I did on my shift today was sexy unless you're into poop, dead bodies and sputum. The last thing you should want to do is touch me in my scrubs. Journalist, long hours, weekends, holidays, middle of the night. Pay sucks, especially in non-profit journalism. And being so plugged into the news every day is depressing. I worked in journalism for 16 plus years. Maybe I did it wrong, but never once did I sleep with sources to get information, nor did I ever blow some giant story wide open. And worst of all, I met zero superheroes. TV and movies lied. Teaching. Yeah, you get summers, nights, weekends, and holidays off, but it's the most frustrating, mentally and emotionally draining job I've ever had. You aren't paid enough for what you have to endure. You get nights and weekends off. When do you grade lesson plan? This shit is 7 days a week. Ultrasound tech, you don't look at babies all day. An ultrasound tech found a blood clot trying to make its way into my brain. I love you guys. I'm in another oft overly romanticized healthcare field, EMS. It was so weird to be really close to stroke or death personally, rather than professionally. Working in music. Most of the industry runs on contingent and part-time workers. Full-time jobs are difficult to get, so if you're one of the others, you're constantly chasing your next gig. During busy parts of the year you're too busy to have a life, and the slower parts of the year you're broke. I worked in it for 4-5 years. It was a lot of fun though. Trucking. In over 42 plus years I saw the finest warehouses in 43 states and 2 Canadian provinces. There are zero shows, movies accurately showing trucking for what it is. It's a soul-sucking exercise in frustration. There are positive aspects in that you can generate a decent paycheck without extensive education or advanced training. All it will cost you is your soul, your friends, your family, and your health. You son of a beach, I'm in. Animal husbandry. Animals don't know if you're helping or hurting. They peck, scratch, and bite regardless. And so many bad smells and disease. Oh, the disease. It doesn't matter if you're not raising them for meat. I wouldn't recommend getting attached. Chances are one of their organs will just decide to fill up and they'll starve themselves to death. Throwing zookeeper in with this. No, I don't swim with alligators, ride elephants, pet monkeys, and nap with tortoises all day. I am a 4-year biology degree plus multiple years experience to get hired barely above minimum wage pooper scooper and water bowl washer. Brewing beer. Most of your day is just cleaning and you're wet almost all of the time. As a brewer I also third this, but I still love it. People always say, man, I would love your job. All you probably do is drink beer all day long. Hoo hoo hoo. Every engineering job I've had is pretty boring, and Excel and PDF editors were my most used applications. Engineering is either boring as shit or stressful as shit. Farming. Sons of the land. My foot. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.